Hey everyone, it's Dr. Teralyn, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Kick Off Your Damn Heels. And today I have a special guest, Jonathan Bertrand. And if I pronounce that wrong, Jonathan, please correct me later. And Jonathan is all about social media awareness. And he has a theory called the triple conscious theory, which he's going to break down in simplistic terms so everybody can understand. But he talks all about understanding social media and understanding how it impacts people positively and negatively. So I wanted him on the show because so much is happening in social media with mental health and causing worse symptoms and people just feeling crappy about themselves. But there's also a positive side. And so I'm hopeful that Jonathan will give us a balanced view of this social conscious theory and how social media impacts everyone. So welcome, Jonathan.
Welcome. I don't think it's not recording.
It is recording. It's recording on my side.
On your side?
Yes.
Sorry, my bad. I apologize. Remember, I thought it showed on my side. Sorry, I was like.
Now you're freaking me out, Jonathan. Maybe you can't see it on your side.
Okay,
totally cool. This is like whatever happens, man, and we're just gonna keep going. All right.
Okay.
Yes.
So my name is Jonathan Bertrand. I'm from Orlando, Florida, and over the past 5 years, I've been developing what I call the triple conscious theory. Now, this is based off the media, self, and public persona. And with this persona, I realized that, or the social media persona, I realized that it not only answered a lot of the questions that the big companies didn't have or therapists didn't have, but it put a name to the problem that was being developed by the big companies. And mind you, I'm not against social media. I'm not against the user. I'm not against them not, cultivating their online life. But I wanted to show that when you mix the media or online persona with the public persona, you have a mixed reality. And with that being said, eventually you start developing a new type of individual subconsciously. And as we know, as you think, as you are. So over the course of, 5 years, I was able to kind of put it into terms and speak on national levels, speak on international levels in Brazil, had ambassadors in Ecuador discuss this because we realized that it's not only that, but it's a universal term based off the W.E.B. Du Bois double conscious theory. And with that theory, it's introducing the public persona and private persona. So all I did was, like any researcher, they made an observation and they looked around and said, hold up. Well, you can't really look around, but you can see, what goes on social media, which is a new realm, how it affects you. And I made that observation and it ended up becoming a real thing. And a professor actually challenged me in my psychology class and said, there's no such thing as a third persona in social media. And he said, figure it out. Well, positively though. He wasn't challenging me.
He was really just trying to get you to think critically on this.
Yeah, but he didn't realize I was going to figure it out and take it to the level that I did. So I let people know, that this theory basically is the answer for a lot of the things that parents, businesses, workplace issues have online.
All right. So this came up for you when you were in college then?
Yes, when I was in college.
Oh, this was undergrad work or graduate work?
Oh, no. I want to make this very, very clear to people. So the creation of it stemmed from my earlier years, early like high school years, but I ended up developing the understanding of that theory or the term itself while I was in college.
Okay.
So I was already working on like social media awareness. I was already building all that because it all ties in together and understanding the psychology behind it. But the term itself, that was more of a, eureka moment when I'm sitting there talking sociology and theology. And I'm like, hold up, there's a missing link. So I let people know that I was doing stuff outside of class. It wasn't in class.
Okay.
Outside of class, and then I brought it into class when my professor challenged me. Then from there, that's how that's how I became more inclined to check into certain areas of study.
All right. So Why is this so important, not only to you, but for other people who are listening? What is the importance of this?
So the importance of this is really like anything. Okay, think about it, like an epidemic, right?
Hmm.
As it spreads, the word gets out, even if it's one person. And if it's something you never heard of, researchers like me and the many others that I've worked with overseas and here in the States and Canada, we try to put a name to the epidemic that's being started. Now, the difference is, like some things that people probably don't know, is that if you look at a lot of epidemics, where do they come from? They just don't magically appear. There's actually trademarks, there's actually, patents for these type of things that are developed in other countries or here. Now, that's a conspiracy theory, but but let's put it into perspective. This is considered a social media epidemic. So it's affecting people subconsciously. You're getting sick. It's causing physical issues. It's causing mental issues. It's affecting your life around you. It's causing people their lives. And I let people know that the reason why it's so important to me is because I was one of them. So I actually dealt with suicide, depression. I dealt actually sitting in this room I'm in right now at the same desk, and it's one of those things where, people always say, well, why is this important? Because it affects you, it affects me, it affects your family, it affects relationships, and it affects the next generation and past generations. People don't think of social media like that. They just think of it as something they can pick up real quick, log in, post, and use. But they don't realize that everything is a timeline. You think you know social media, but you don't. And when you put yourself in that cyber realm, meaning taking away from the physical realm, you are disconnecting from reality. And over time, it's like a loophole. You temporarily come back to reality, but you're not there. That's a quantum theory. So I let people know that when you say, why is it important? Because it affects you, whether you know it or not. And that's the kind of things that social media awareness is being developed for, to teach you, educate you. That's why the triple conscious theory was developed, to get you to understand the name behind that persona. Because if you don't know, you're not going to understand it.
So what you're kind of saying is there's me, there's social media me, and then there's another version of me. Is that what you're saying? That's kind of combines the two things, or something else? What am I feel like I'm missing a piece.
So no, you got it just right. So remember, so there's the media use, social media you. There's self. So there's self. You only know you. I don't know who you are. And then there's the public perception of you. That's what I think you are.
Right.
So when you mix the public and the social media, or how you are online, who do you have? It's a mixture. So think about it. Public, media. Mm-hmm. When you cross over, who are you? Once it hits that axis, people forget who they are. And that's why we have people that have identity issues, personality disorders. And they don't understand this because it was never addressed to them, or it was never diagnosed. Well, and that's what I'm working on.
Possibly because I joke about this all the time. The world of psychology, if it's not 100 years old, we're not going to listen to these theories, right? So this is a brand new theory, right? This is brand new. So because social media is relatively new, right? Yes. I mean, relatively speaking, it's new. So
19 years or something like that.
Oh, really? So that's relative. So in psychology years, that's like a infant. You know, exactly. That's not even an infant. Yeah, exactly. That's not even a thought, right?
Yeah. So I mean, okay. So think about it now. So think about it. 2015 now. I'm in college. I'm a sophomore in college. So think about it. 2014 is when I went public with this. So just think about it. You're starting out trying to persuade people that they have a third persona. People thought I was on crack. People thought I lost my mind. People thought I was taking some hardcore stuff, and they're like, "What is John talking about?" Right. So yes, and mind you too, like you said, if it's not written 100 years ago, people don't believe it. Right. So a lot of the things that I'm having right now is that I'm trying to basically work backwards here. I developed it, and now I'm trying to prove it to people in the academic world. So in the like everyday world, the moment I say social media called the third persona, they understand it. Like I could have a whole conversation, and people are like, "Oh yeah, social media does cause that." Then if I go to academic world, it's like they try to, and I know I'm young, I'm 24, but they try to refute every single thing that I say, even with the evidence, even with the trademarks, and I actually do own social media dependency disorder as well. So that's very rare too. So people don't understand a lot of these disorders that are being developed, like polio, people actually own that to some degree.
I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Oh yeah, you gotta look up these patents. These patents, like either it's the government or it's a private individual that makes it private, but you can't find them, or you know where to look through research. So a lot of these things that I tell people is that I'm doing basically what they did, but it's just in the 21st century in my generation, and I happen to be of the same age, not 60 years old doing it.
Hey now.
Nothing wrong with it now. Hey, I got people that are in that age range that support me big time.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's what it's becoming. That's what it is becoming.
So when you're talking about this, well, it kind of reminds me of like the id, the ego, and the super ego. Like this mix of weird, right? So when I think about this, you said you've got yourself, you've got the social media version of yourself, and then you've got this third thing. And in my mind, I went, the third thing is like imposter syndrome.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, so technically you can say that's like the super ego. So that's like the super ego, that's the imposter, because in reality, if you met me right now and you did not know what I did for a living, I can assure you and I can guarantee you would not know what I did for a living. You would just look at me probably like, oh, he's so nice. He's just quiet. Like
well, what a good kid he seems to be,
like in the back of the cafeteria by myself. Nobody comes to me, nobody bothers me, and you'd be like, what is he doing back there by himself? But then when you talk to me and my mouth opens, or you see me online or you Google my name, you'll realize I live a third life. I live a whole nother life. And some people have said, is that the real you, or who's the you? Because in reality, we're going to believe what we see online because that's your dominant persona. So then I say to people, and this is what I tell people, I'm like, when I talk to people, who am I talking to? Am I talking to you online, or am I talking to you in person, or am I talking to your subconscious self? I'm curious.
My mind is blown right now. This blows my mind because I'm thinking, okay, so today is the very first day that we've met, right?
Yeah.
Like this is it. We've never met before. And what did I say to you when we first popped on before we hit record was I've been following you on social media. Right?
And that's the thing. And people don't understand that what you see on social media is just a tiny fraction of what's actually happening. So I let people know that, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, the Bill Gateses of the world, but all of them, I'm like, and the school district superintendents didn't be watching this. Who knows? Because I'll be sending this to people too. And hopefully they understand that this type of stuff will be taught in schools. This type of stuff will be endorsed and taught by psychiatrists and therapists, because when they come to you and social media is the cause, guess what you're going to do? You're going to break down that persona, and you're going to try to understand their perception and their position from a new area. And I can assure you, they'll take a lot of people more seriously when they can start relating to something like that, and they know that they can understand a millennial that's being affected with suicide, or they're being bullied online. And parents come in and talk to you and say they're posting stuff. What do I do? Well, this is what you do because of social media awareness. This is what you need.
So I even think about, so I'm trying to look at it even from you talked about social media bullying, like even the bully on social media is going through this, right?
Exactly.
That bully might be the guy sitting in the back of the cafeteria that's quiet, or the most popular kid in school, but behind the screen and behind the thing, there's something else. They can be something else, right?
Yes. They could be anybody they want. I mean, so technically, so recently I watched the Ted Bundy film.
Yeah.
And, I like to study things like that, just to know what the mind was behind.
Well, it's similar.
Yeah, very similar. Now, mind you. So Ted Bundy targeted women, but he targeted a specific type, a certain type. So if you look, and I actually went to school in Tallahassee, Florida. So it's one of those things where, we heard a lot about him, but I
Yeah.
never really looked into him until I saw that video. And one of the biggest things they said about him is that, his personalities can switch like clockwork. So one moment he's, oh yeah, very chill, relaxed, charming. And then the next moment, in private closed doors where nobody knew, and even his own best friend didn't know, that went to the bar for him, he was actually a real serial killer. And he was able to manipulate and persuade. That's kind of like the online persona. And people who actually are like that are threats, or that are threats to themselves, don't really, understand, and then you don't have a barrier. So like, let's say you take away that, that understanding. That's kind of how it was in the 90s when he was doing that type of stuff. There was, or maybe 80s or 90s, there was no DNA evidence. You didn't have forensics like that on that level. So let's think about it, social media. Now people can have a timeline, automatic timeline of what you said, how you said it, face recognition, down to the key. And people don't get that type of stuff. So it goes deeper than just, oh, we're using a social media app. No, they're building a social profile. They're building that persona.
It's almost like leaving your DNA behind.
You are leaving your cyber DNA.
Cyber DNA, yep.
So that's why I tell people that cyber DNA is in the new realm of thinking, or let's say new place, because it's not real, because it could be anything you want, so that new place, you're leaving your cyber DNA. And that's the kind of things that I tell people that, every time you post, every time you make a video, every time we log in, it's leaving a DNA trace that they can go back to an IP address anywhere in the world and find you and create a profile on you, regardless of what you actually are.
Wow. This is so deep. This is so deep.
And one thing I tell people, that the term, when the people look me up and they see pioneer of social media awareness, creator of triple conscious theory, and social media dependency disorder, that's because they wasn't given. So these type of conversations I've had with top level executives, I've had with the Forbes lister, #1 Forbes lister in Dubai. I had these same conversations, and it's public knowledge. I've met with the chairman of the board of Microsoft, had these same conversations about cybersecurity. That what we just talked about is cybersecurity.
Yeah.
So, people really don't understand the different levels that I've been developing and how I've been able to myself understand my own persona and manipulate it to 23 different industries.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds kind of crazy. But realistically, you got to think about it. When you really do some research into that theory, and you see the areas that I've touched, how do you do it, and how can you manage? Because subconsciously, people are so used to being, what is it, binomial, or what is it, like two, right? Is it binomial?
I don't know.
I think it's called binomial, where it's just two. And, I tell people you got to be trinomial, so it's 3 ways. Yeah, 3 ways, there you go, trinomial. So when you speak to people, how are they listening to you? One way, or are they listening to you just directly?
Right. I need to back up, because I really want you to talk about the social media use disorder. Is that what you said?
Social media dependency disorder.
Dependency disorder. Yes. So let's talk about that for a minute. What is that exactly? And yeah, so what is that exactly?
Okay, so social media dependency disorder was actually developed when I was Baker active in 2012. And I was sitting in the facility at University Behavioral Center in Orlando, Florida. And I was bullied, by the way, so that it triggered a lot of different things. And social media was my outlet. That goes back to third persona. But that third persona in that social media realm, I was able to, I developed an anger that manifested online. And I kind of treated online like a person. And with that disorder, I really became super, super, super dependent, to the point where if I did not have my phone on me, I was like, like Kill Bill, like on the verge of that, like really ready to just go. And I ended up losing my conscience. And with that dependency, I didn't realize the triggers. So it was more like anytime I talked about, a woman I liked, I would go to social media. Anytime I talked about a family issue, I'll go to social media. Anytime I didn't like my parents or something they said, I'll go to social media. like to the point where people knew something was going on when I started, contemplating suicide online.
Wow.
And to the point where I wrote a whole manifesto, and that's when I realized how dependent I was. And when they Baker acted me, and I sat in the facility, and the lady said, "Jonathan, why are you in here? You don't have a problem." And I said, "Social media. It's like crack cocaine. I'm addicted to social media." This was before the studies came out, mind you.
Right.
Way before studies came out. So I'm telling people this, and I'm like, no, it's like a drug. I've never done crack, but it's like a drug.
But if I did do crack, I think it would be the same thing.
Yeah, everyone looking at me like, John has lost his mind. But as time went on, and once I got into college, once I got my mind right, disconnected for maybe 2 months, and to the point where I literally was caught on social media and lied to my grandma. So while I was during that detox phase, that's when I knew I got caught sneaking on Facebook. This was before Instagram, on Facebook. And, I was like, I'm dependent. Like, I really got to get this under control. So I went to college, started talking to people, and a fraternity brother of mine sat me down, Phi Alpha Delta, shout out, pre-law. And he sat me down and was like, "Hey, John, this is what the law says. This is what the stipulations are. You're developing a new disorder." So he was just verifying the thing that I already developed, but he was like, "No, you're developing a new disorder. It's not in the DSM. If somebody was to go to trial right now, there's nothing for social media." And I was like, interesting, social media dependency disorder. So then I was like, perfect. And actually, do I have it right here? Oh man, I don't. But oh no, this is the trademark. But this is actually the time that I actually filed. March 13th, 2015 is actually when I filed the trademark for social media dependency disorder at 4:30 p.m.
Exactly, 4:30.
Yeah, I did that right here. Yeah, and that's the day that I was like, okay, I'm going to secure this. I'm going to promote it as it is, a dependency and a disorder. So mind you, like any dependency, it's based off an addiction. And people know with an addiction, you can get rid of an addiction. It's with treatment or, some type of way. Now I say that the dependency is a more serious version of that addiction. Now maybe I'm getting this wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been explaining this way for a long time and they've been accepting it. So,
right. Who am I to say no?
Okay, tell me if I'm wrong now. Let me know.
All right.
We can talk through this. It could be on record. I don't care. But with that dependency though, in the disorder, I was like, what's the disorder? It causes disruption, causes disruption in your everyday life, whether psychological or physical, and you cannot break the cycle no matter what you do. It's bad. It can kill you, and that's the kind of thing where once I started seeing people taking their lives, people calling me, I got a call from a parent in 2014 saying that their kid was going to hang themselves in a closet. And people don't understand that this was before I developed the disorder. So I'm taking these conversations that I've had with parents and like older adults that I've talked to directly or I'll travel to, and they would tell me this stuff, and I'm like, no, it really is a disorder. And people have to address this as such. And then I started building the awareness. And then in 2016, I met with, online as we are now, with Kristen Walker of Mental Health Radio Network, talked with her, and she said, pitch to National Council. I said, what? I said, who's that? And she's like, National Council is the leading authority in mental and behavioral health in the country. So I did, and within 2 weeks, they denied it, then they accepted it. And then the disorder became a real thing, and it was like, oh, now there's no turning back. So,
whether you like it or not.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, I can't just drop it now because it's a real thing. Now I got to really prove it. So I wrote a paper called Why Social Media Dependency Disorder Needs to Be in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual in 2017. Mm-hmm. And with that paper, I break down the W.E.B. Du Bois's theory and how that dependency kind of relates to that old theory, and how, you start having to code switch. You got to code switch, on that dependency, because you can hide it. But when you get online, it's noticeable based on post habit, based on content, based on when you use it, based on how you use it. And these are the kind of things that I want people to address. And, and that's what we're looking to, really, really, really do hardcore research on in 2019.
So because, well, right now, what I was thinking of, like, this is like a subset because people talk about like electronics dependency, you know, gaming and phone and whatever, but this is like a subspecialty under that because you have to have something electronic to get to social media, right?
Exactly.
So I could see how, I mean, I like this as a subspecialty because I think not enough things are that particular. And I also look at it like, as you were talking, I was thinking, how many times have I just like mindlessly scrolled through my Facebook feed and lost time doing it?
There's no barrier. That's the thing about, you know how drugs are. You could stop it by getting it. You know,
Yeah.
you can stop that. With social media, it's tied into everything you do. So that right there alone, you know, increases that dependency tenfold.
Mm-hmm.
And even with me, I'm not gonna lie, I used to post a good 30 times a day.
Oh my
And
gosh.
oh yeah, no, I have over maybe 27,000 posts. So, which is ridiculous because people look at me like you're a product of your own creation. So do you not understand what you're doing? And mind you, I don't put myself in the same position. I'm a user just like everybody else, and I can separate that from the researcher,
Right.
which would be considered an issue.
Well, but you talk about before you kind of used it
Negatively.
yeah, extremely. I was thinking like cavalier, you know, like a negative, like I'm just going to throw this out here with, you know, blatant disregard. It's just, you know, that type of thing.
What it is, but it is what it is. But now I'm cautious. So like I'm very cautious about what I post, but it's just structured though. It's structured, and then that alone right there, you know, people say that's a problem itself because when you start structuring your posts, you're trying to lead on a life you're really probably not living. And I try my best to be as transparent and as real as possible. Yeah. Because, you know, I let people know that what I post is what I do, and people don't understand everything I'm telling you right now is, you know, beyond what I actually post. You know, right. So they don't get that depth, they don't get that oomph to it. That's why they would rather talk to me, because they know that when you talk to me, you're going to get the real thing. And even like with this logo, like, you know, the whole point of the logo is the third, you know, is that dependency, you know, in the white line in between the two heads, you know, that's transparent. It's either or, and either you go left or you go right. And that web that you see there, that was there, that's the internet. That's the cyber realm. It's always connecting.
So I also look at like, so in the addiction field, there's also like harm reduction, right? So if but you can only decide if you can engage in a harm reduction method of social media or alcohol or drugs, right? Like, so everybody wants harm reduction because they want to continue to use what they're using, right? So I'm going to do harm reduction. I'm just going to moderate. I'm going to do all these things until you can't, you know, until again, it comes back into this whole big ball of crap that now you're back in the same spot you were in before you started, right? So how do you know? Because I look at what you're doing as almost like a harm reduction way for yourself. Would you think that that's kind of accurate? Yeah.
You figured it out. Yep, I developed this for my. No, I mean, and that's one of the things I like to see how people understand it, because when I explain it, you'll realize, yes, I created this for me at first, and then as a harm reduction because I was doing a lot of damage. I almost got expelled from school, just because of social media. So yes, it's a harm reduction, and then I had to realize, and maybe this is the other persona that I used to have, because I used to be very like not negatively manipulative. But I knew what I was doing, I knew why I was doing it, and I knew the purpose. And I always did stuff intentionally, and I would set it up to where I would get a certain response. So yes, I guess you can, and yeah, and people really don't know that about me. But I used to be very, very, very strategic. Like, people thought I was in the military, or they thought, because I was trying to go to the military for this type of stuff. So people are just like, so. What do you do now? Like, is you special ops or something like that?
Yeah, like, you could be.
Yeah, and I've talked to people that are ex-special ops, special forces, and they look at me, they're like, you're doing psychological operations like psychological warfare, and you're targeting things that you just can't see or you would need special computers for to really break down. And you did that without all that. I use a cell phone to do work. I don't use computers.
Right.
So people don't understand that. They think I need everything. And I'm like, you don't understand what I can do with a phone. So
yeah, you can do more damage with a phone than you can with a gun.
yeah. I mean, I can end careers right now if I wanted to, based off of just the things that I know, what I've seen, the things that I can pull together. And not even with the quick Google search or just understanding that persona.
Right. All right. So what are some things you really want people to take away from this conversation?
One thing I want people to take away from this conversation is that anytime you hear or see someone doing something online that they shouldn't be doing, have them go to socialmediaawareness.org.
We'll put that in the show notes so everyone has that. Yep.
To check social media awareness out, but also get an understanding for self. And actually what I tell people as well too, and what we could also provide or what I can send to you is tracking your personas. So your online persona, your public persona, and your self persona. And I actually created a chart for that. And basically people have actually done a month study on themselves. And they came to find out that, whatever persona is dominant, that's where a lot of the issues arise. And as you move forward with that, eventually you'll start self-checking yourself. So the whole goal is to not get you not to use social media, but just to be aware subconsciously, because we can tell you all day long. My goal, isn't to be there every single day teaching you about this. It's to get you to be like, wow, okay, this is how I process. This is how I understand. I need to talk with my family about this. I need to talk with my kids about this. I need to talk with my school counselors with this. I need to talk to my executive about this. So we can get this in the movement, get this in and join this new type of awareness and understanding. So if you guys leave with this, remember, one post can change the mind. One comment can change a generation.
Oh, you're so deep. So what's up next for you, Jonathan? I'm excited. You're so young. I'm excited to see you as social media progresses and as your life progresses. And who knows, maybe this will be what you do for a long time, maybe not. So what's up next for you?
So what's up next for me is actually developing the first social media awareness certified by me, the pioneer, educational platform where, psychiatrists, right? Like yourself.
I'm not a psychiatrist, but I'm a therapist. Yeah.
Okay, mm-hmm. Sorry, my bad.
That's okay. Nobody knows these different terms, but whatever.
Okay, so developing a platform where psychiatrists and therapists can use to teach or license to their patients. So we're going to start doing that very, very soon. And we already have about maybe 5 different individuals that want to start licensing my work officially. So everything that I've been talking about, we're going to put into an educational platform. And it took me, 9 years to even get to this point. And then also that's the educational part. When it comes more to production and TV, I actually started Mental Health Roundtable. So if you go to mentalhealthroundtable.com, I own the rights to all that. And we actually are looking to start the conversation. And we're bringing in one of the largest platform, which averages about close to 500,000 listeners every month. And they just reached 7 million listeners total. Mental Health News Radio Network. So we've been fortunate enough to partner with them to bring a lot of their podcasters, and we're going to bring the first real mental health roundtable to TV and entertainment to actually start the conversation with just everyday people, executives, people you probably never heard of before, but that's where it starts. And I'm going to bring that platform, and I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash from it, but they're going to have to understand that, when you self-fund things or when you get people that will fund it, and you're not corporate ran, for those people that are watching that know good and well my background, when I'm not corporate ran, that I will push it beyond the limits that I can go. And that's my next projects.
Good, because without people who push limits, there would be no change. So I appreciate you pushing limits on this. And I'm super excited for you. So I hope that our paths will cross again and again and again and again. So
I can assure you, there's no hoping. It will.
On social media. You got it. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And thank you, Jonathan, for being here. This was a great conversation around social media, and we will keep it going on social media, of course. So, all right. Take care, everyone.